Hello, I'm Rich Rhoades of the Rhoades Pod, What's the Skinny Podcast. This is podcast episode number 4, and I'm glad you've been around following me in the early goings of this podcast. Remember to subscribe to the podcast on the rss.com network. The Rhoades Pod can be found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcast platforms. Remember, I bought a vowel, so it's Rhoades if you're searching for the podcast. Although this is an audio-only pod, it can be found on YouTube as well. That would be Rich Rhoades, Rhoades, at 4861. That's on YouTube. It's good to have you back for episode number 4, and we're talking about high school football in District 9. Week 2 has already been completed. We're heading into Week 3. Make sure you click on to all the coverage around District 9 that I'm involved with, the Courier Express and Du Bois, the Tri-County Weekend, same newspaper family, as well as the weekly publications of which I'm a sports editor for. And that would be the Leader Vindicator in New Bethlehem and the Jeffersonian Democrat in Brookville. All those are available online. Some have a paywall. D9and10sports.com is another area that I have, another media platform that I do contribute to, including some football preview stuff. And we'll kind of look at that this week and review that this past weekend around District 9 in football. And this week there's some pretty good games on the schedule, and we'll start with Thursday. Union AC Valley at Keystone. The Falcon Knights are 2-0 playing the 1-1 Keystone Panthers. Falcon Knights last Thursday beat Red Bank Valley 26-22. I thought that could be a good game, and it's exactly what I thought, although I did pick Red Bank Valley, but all kudos to the Falcon Knights who won that game. Keystone opened with a win over Brookville and then battled Central Clarion this past Friday and lost 30-12. That game was 15-12 going into the fourth quarter before the Wildcats pulled away for a 30-12 win. This Keystone team's pretty good as well. Dom Corsetti has thrown for 109 yards, but he's mostly doing his damage with his legs. He's rushed for 409 yards and 6 touchdowns. Max Gallagher is the stat leader so far for the Falcon Knights, 336 yards rushing in 2 games with 6 touchdowns. Logan Skabinski's his running mate. He's run for 121 yards and two touchdowns. Dan Reed, the head coach of Union AC Valley, he was a former coach of the Keystone Panthers as well. So that game is in Knox Thursday night. That gets things started. Some other notable games, and they are on Friday. How about Du Bois at Karn City? Du Bois 1-1 at Karn City, 2-0. Trey Wingard of the Beavers coming off a tough loss. It was a 55. Let's get this score right. What was that? It was Punxsutawney over Du Bois, 59-45. Crazy game, a lot of yards. And Trey Wingard of Du Bois threw for 419 yards, but he was intercepted 5 times, threw 4 touchdowns. He has thrown for 824 yards this year and 10 touchdowns. Jackson Hansley, 21 catches in 2 games, 445 yards and 5 touchdowns. Karn City, Karn City and Du Bois, last 2 games they've met, 46-43 and 41-36, both games won by the Beavers. Cole Johnston is the quarterback for the Gremlins. He's thrown for 355 yards. Ogun Higginbotham and Hunter Scherer are the top rushers for a deep Karn City running attack. Higginbotham, 171 yards rushing. That game Friday night as well. How about another big one? This is the first time I think we've said this. 2 returning state runners-up meeting in Week 3 in District 9 territory at Clarion High School, and that's Port Allegheny at Central Clarion. Of course, we know Port Allegheny runner-up in single A last year, Central Clarion in double A, and they meet on the gridiron at Clarion at Weiser Field, and it'll be an interesting matchup. The Gators, of course, feature Aiden Bliss. He's rushed for over 100 yards 17 straight games. He's run for 285 yards so far in 2 games. He is now at 5,353 career yards. He's a senior, of course, and 84 touchdowns. Last year, he ran for 34-30 and 56. He came into the season ranked 5th in rushing, and he recently passed a Brady Collins of Clearfield, who graduated last year. So Bliss is now number 4 behind 3 Kerwinsville guys. Can you name those guys? I'll give you a couple seconds. Alex Holland, Nick Sipes, and Nick Stewart. Holland over 7,000 yards. He's the all-time leader And Mr. Bliss at 53-53 is within strike. Actually, I'm sorry. Nick Stewart has 7,324 yards. He's the all-time leader. Holland is at 57-54. Sipes, 59-63. So for sure, expect Bliss with a healthy season to get at least past those two guys. Stewart, maybe, if he runs for as much as he did last year, 34-30. That's crazy numbers. So he'll be the guy for the Wildcats to stop. Wildcats rebounded last week, as I said earlier, with a win over Keystone. Ethan Rex has rushed for 168 yards in 2 games, 3 touchdowns overall. Carter Hyman just threw 9 passes in last week's win over Keystone. They lost, if you remember, the season opener against Kirtland, Ohio. Other games, those are the big ones. Actually, Brockway's hosting Red Bank Valley. Both teams 1-1. They're both looking to get some momentum going. Brockway shut out by Punks in the opening week. They rebounded with a hard-fought win over St. Mary's 20-13 last Friday. I was at that game. Red Bank Valley trying to rebound from its loss to Union AC Valley. Braylon Wagner of Red Bank Valley, he's 98 career touchdowns and stands at 608 yards passing for the year, 7 interceptions. He's been intercepted 4 times already. He's at 75-40 career passing yards, 2 yards behind Braden Fox, coincidentally, a former Brockway quarterback, in 7th place. There's only 3 quarterbacks with 100 or more touchdowns in District 9 passing history. Wagner's at 98. I'll give you a few seconds to name the 3 ahead of him. Okay, Jace Ferguson, Matt Bodemer, and Jack Krug. Ferguson of Central Clarion, Bodemer of Port Allegheny, and Krug of Brookville. Brockway quarterback Aiden Patton has passed for 420 yards and a touchdown. Both teams in this matchup are struggling running the ball. So it'll be an interesting game to see how that goes. How about Kane? The Wolves are 2-0. They go to Ridgeway. Actually, that game is going to be played in Johnsonburg Friday night. The Wolves 2-0, trying to take on, trying to get a 3-0 start against the Elkers. Could be a good game. Wolves quarterback Eric Novosel has passed for 127 yards and he's rushed for 160. Evan Anderson is the primary running threat for the Wolves, 290 yards. Marcus Gerg, Nate Steger, Rocco Allegretto, look for them to all get the ball in the run-heavy attack for the Elkers. Another game that I took some interest in, and this is an interesting one, a team we don't see a lot of in District 9 because they play a District 6 schedule in the Laurel Highlands, and that would be Clearfield. They are hosting Phillipsburg Osceola, and that game, the Bison are 1-1. Phillipsburg Osceola 2-0. The Mounties haven't had a winning season since 2011. That's also the last time they beat the Bison. The Bison have beaten the Mounties 13 times in a row, including one by forfeit, and they were all mercy rules in every one except last year's 33-7 game. And DeMarcus Law, who is a state track medalist for the Mounties, has rushed for 235 yards. Colton Chapman, also over 200 yards in 2 games for the Mounties, who have beaten Central Martinsburg 48-24, Chestnut Ridge 20-14, 2 solid programs. Both they had losing streaks to those teams. The Bison, they opened with a 28-21 loss to Bellwood and then beat Bedford last week 21-14. Xavier Curry, the quarterback, has thrown for 193. Colton Ryan is running as leading rusher at 100. Well, he's a leading rusher at 182 yards. And Curry as well. So that could be a good game. Look for that one, and perhaps a streak-busting win for the Mounties. And by the way, DeMarcus Law, anytime you hear the last name Law, yes, there is an Aliquippa connection, and I believe he is a relative of Ty Law of Aliquippa fame. Obviously a Hall of Famer, NFL Pro Football Hall of Famer. Other games, Punxsutawney at home 2-0. Chucks are off to a great start, as we said, with that win over DuBois last week. They host Bradford. Maddox Hetrick, player of the week for the Chucks in that game against the Beavers. He threw for 1 and ran for 4. He's thrown for 200. He threw for 275 yards and ran for 84 last week. So over 300 yards of offense for Hetrick leading the Chucks, who have a pretty deep roster. We're going to be hearing them make some noise most of this season. We'll see how that goes. Now the Chucks they're Class 4A. DuBois is 5A. So, and believe it or not, DuBois and Punxsutawney play again later this year. That's a game that might be worth playing 2 games, as close as that first one was. Other games on the docket: Smethport at Cameron County. The Red Raiders are 2-0. These games are all Friday. The Red Raiders are 2-0. Malachi Zuckel, 237 yards rushing in 2 games. St. Mary's at Brookville, both teams seeking their first win. Bucktail winning 3-0. Now, Bucktail plays in Division 4 of District 9. They are not a District 9 team. They play a mostly District 9 schedule. They're a District 4 team. Thought that was an interesting score, 3-0. And then Montauk, after shutting out Coudersport, they got roughed up by Port Allegheny last week, as everyone has lately. The other D9 game, Curwensville is at Mount Union. Curwensville 0-2, Mount Union 1-1. So make sure you click on to all those sources of your up-to-date news in District 9, including D910sports.com for the football preview that I'll be working on here for later this week, and then obviously District 9 or area volleyball, high school, cross country, and soccer going on all week. And make sure you, as I said, remember to subscribe to the podcast on the RSS.com network. The Rhoades Pod, also found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcast platforms. That's RHOADES. That's the Rhoades Pod. What's the Skinny? And although this is an audio-only pod, you can find that on YouTube as well. And make sure you find it at Rich Rhoades at 4861. Evie Bliss, that is, off to Tokyo, as we mentioned in the previous pod. Make sure you take a look at that or listen to that podcast. And a very interesting interview I had with Evie, and there'll be more coming up on that. September 18th is when she throws in Tokyo, and if she qualifies through that round, she would throw the next day on the 19th. So more to report on that. Also, the Nathan Smith captain U.S. Walker Cup team plays this weekend, this Saturday and Sunday in California. They get a chance. Cypress Point, they play Great Britain and Ireland, and it's a match play format. The Americans trying to win again. They are the favorites, but not by much, as Nathan mentioned on that podcast. Make sure you listen to that. Get a good breakdown of how that format goes. It's an amateur golf version of the Ryder Cup, which is later this fall, which is not far away actually after the Walker Cup. So all that information going to get out there. Follow that along. I have a Twitter account that's the Skinny 1969 on X, or Twitter, as a lot of people still call it. And I'm also on Facebook as well, along with contributing to D910sports.com and the Courier Express and the Jeffersonian Democrat and the Leader Vindicator. Hey guys, see you later. Have a good one.